The first thing I would go back and tell my younger self, if I had an opportunity to, is to follow your gifts, not your passion. Gifts over passion. You see, when I was a lot younger, I used to be infatuated with basketball. Any game I played had something to do with basketball. Any rec sports had to be basketball. My friends, my cousins would want to play football in the yard, and I would be like, no, where's the ball, where's the goal at? I want to hoop. And I've been playing ball since I was like 7. And nothing's wrong with that, but I did have one issue. And that issue was I wasn't really that good. Good enough to beat the kids in the neighborhood, but when it came time for real competition, I had to work really hard just to be a mediocre player. So by the time I got to a high school level, I found myself having to do extra shooting drills, extra sprints, lifting weights, extra shots out the practice, dribbling drills, countless passing drills, just to get a warm seat at the end of the bench on the high school team. And I had been playing basketball since I was 7, and I loved it dearly. However, somewhere in Cameroon, there's a 6'9", 15-year-old who wakes up one day and says, I want to be the next Hakeem Olajuwon. And by the time he turned 16, he had a spot on the Mount Vernon Academy boys basketball team. Mount Vernon Academy, in case you didn't know, is the best, or one of the best, high school basketball programs in the nation, and it has been for the longest. Now, the older me has a much wiser perspective. You see, where I sit now, I can look at that situation and say, that's just what happens. That's a real world example of when somebody chases their passion as opposed to exercising their gifts. Because if being 6'9" and 15 isn't your sign to start playing basketball, I don't know what is. So if you're watching this, I know you might have a plethora of passions, things that you're interested in, things that you like learning about, things that you just overall like to do or like to be around. But your gift is something that you should chase, and your gift is something that sets you far apart from the field. Something that's a natural talent, it's a natural work ethic. As Steve Harvey says, it's the thing that you do the best with the least amount of effort. And it doesn't take much effort to be 6'9" if you're 6'9". And I know that some of you guys might have trouble, like I did, finding your gifts. But I'm gonna tell you the number one reason why you're probably having trouble finding your gifts. The number one reason why most people have a hard time finding their gifts is because they're too busy admiring and wishing that they had another person's gift. We look at Chris Brown and wish that we can sing and dance. We look at Drake and wish that we can make amazing music. We look at Tariq Hill and wish we could run a 4.2 and catch footballs out of the air. And there's nothing wrong with looking at these people and getting inspired. But what you have to do, and what I wish I would have told my younger self, is to take that inspiration you get from watching other people exercise their gifts and use it as gas, use it as fuel, not direction. It's not your compass. It's not your sign to go out and do what they're doing. Take that inspiration and fuel it. Use it as fuel to go and do what you're supposed to do in a direction that's meant for you. Man, another thing that comes to mind when I look back and think about, how I was as a kid or just a younger guy, man, I was a little timid, man. I can't lie to you. And it wasn't that I was like scared or some type of social recluse who was scared of people or just scared of success. It was more so I didn't like big risk. I wasn't a really bold risk action taker. And that's why I wish I can go back and tell myself that fortune favors the bold. Now, everybody's watching this can probably think back to a time where there was this girl or this woman that you really liked or you wanted to talk to, and when you would be around her, you guys would catch like a natural vibe. It was a natural clicking, and you would flirt with her and she would flirt back, but you never really made a move. You never really announced that you liked her, never leaned in for a kiss. You never really shot your shot, so to speak. Even though there were times where you felt like maybe she might have been giving me a sign. I don't know. She might have, may not have, but you don't know because you didn't shoot your shot, because you wanted to be a gentleman. And there's nothing wrong with being a gentleman, but whatever that may be, days go by, weeks go by, months, maybe even years go by, and you and said girl, said woman reconnect. When you guys reconnect, you talk about how things are now and how things were back then. And because it's been some time past, you probably gained some confidence, found yourself or learned yourself a lot better. You express that, man, yo, I used to really have a crush on you, or this, that, and the third way back then. And she'll probably respond like, yeah, I had a crush on you too. I wish you had made a move or just told me. I was waiting on you, but because you didn't say nothing, I didn't say nothing, so it just never happened. When you realize that, wow, she was feeling the same about me as I was about her, you start feeling like, wow, I really should have took that risk. And with your newfound confidence, you try to go for it and try to make happen what didn't happen back then. And she immediately curves you. She says, maybe it's not meant to be, because if it was, it would have already happened, or some variation of that. And that's a heartbreaking moment, because you were just trying to be a gentleman back then, right? Wrong. That's why it's such a heartbreak moment. Not because she rejected your advances, but more so because you weren't really trying to be a gentleman back then. That wasn't top of your mind back then. What it really was is you were afraid of rejection. You were afraid of what would happen if you were to make a move, shoot a shot, and you were to airball. So you hide behind the gentleman card and never make your move, and you lost out on the opportunity. And I know this hits a sore spot for a lot of you guys like it does me, but trust me, when this happens with a woman, it is the least of your worries, because this same scenario happens all across different people's lives every single day. It happens at job opportunities. It happens with YouTube channels that you said you were gonna start, but you never started. It happens in every single aspect of life. So remember, if you find yourself in a situation where you're not really sure what to do, remember, shooters shoot and fortune favors the bold. Steph Curry is literally one of the best three-point shooters we've ever seen. Even the old guys say that he's one of the best they've ever seen. And he's only shot 42.6% from three. And if you watch basketball, you understand that shooting 40% from three is really high. But if you just kind of back up and think about it, you realize that the best three-point shooter in the world can shoot from the three-point line 10 times, and he's likely to only make 4. And he's the greatest of all time. So what if that's his ratio? What is your ratio? Have you even shot 10 times at the thing that you really want to go after? And I'm gonna just be honest, if you were to say I'm gonna give 10 solid shots at anything that I want in life, you know, it's gonna be very rare that you only hit 4 times, man. So if I were you, or if I were actually talking to my younger self, I would say 4 out of 10 is the best shooter in the world. Shoot or shoot, fortune favors the bold. And although I wasn't really the biggest risk taker when I was a lot younger, I worked really, really hard. And I took pride in my hard work and took pride in being really, really smart, like most people probably do. And I think remembering back to school, I was never an A student, but I made A and B honor roll pretty regularly. I had honors classes, so I was just smart enough to be one of the dumbest in the honors classes, if that makes sense. But going through life and maturing, I'm realizing that being seen as smart is overrated. And I know that sounds crazy, but follow me. There's 2 normal problems that happen with smart people. The first one is that even if you are actually smart, you're probably never as smart as you think you are. So you're more likely to underestimate the amount of work it's gonna take to get something done. You're gonna underestimate the amount of time that it's gonna take you to do it. And you're gonna overestimate your capacity to figure things out, to learn different things. And whenever you underestimate any obstacle in your life, it's definitely gonna make your life a lot harder than it has to be. But that's just the first thing. The second reason why being smart is pretty overrated is that people who are truly smart have been known to catch on to things and just grasp things a lot faster than average. So you're used to a lot of things coming a lot easier to you than other people. The issue with that is that when things get really, really hard, which at some level of life they are, you're gonna get to a situation where you don't learn a subject as fast, or maybe you don't catch on to something as fast. And when you have that slow moment of, oh my God, why can't I understand this stuff? Like we all do at some point. You're either gonna shy away from it, you're gonna lose confidence, or you're just gonna all around quit whatever you're trying to learn, whatever skill you're trying to acquire. As opposed to people who are used to not really being or feeling that smart. They're kind of used to having to put their heads down and grind through a period of time where they feel like they could be the dumbest in the room. But a benefit of not thinking that you're actually that smart is the persistence, the mental endurance, the ability to stay focused on the subject even when you're not actually grasping it. You read the same page 15 times, but you're willing to read it 1,000 in order to understand it. What happens when those people who don't really believe that they're that smart, but they have that mental endurance, they stay on it, they stay on track, they stay trying to read or understand things, they acquire new skills, they work with a skill until they feel like they've mastered it. And what happens is eventually they do master it, and then what happens? They move on into another skill. and another skill, and they understand this and they learn about that and they learn about that, because the hard work, the grind, that feeling of why don't I know this, why don't I understand this, they're used to it. They have no problem giving themselves new challenges. And when you really peel the layers back and study some form of success or study successful people, you start realizing trends. And the trend is that most success comes route of one or two things: skills or understandings. So the people who are ultra successful either understand more things deeper than most people, or they're just more skillful. They're literally better than most people at certain things. Let's take somebody like Elon Musk, who has a very deep understanding of so many different things like rocket science, tunneling, physics, artificial intelligence, construction. Who knows where that list ends? And because he has understandings in so many different fields, he's been able to acquire however many billions he has right now. Or we can look at, one of the richest black people in the world, Robert Smith. He was interviewed and they asked him, what are the most important skills that have got you to this place right now? He answered them and said, accounting and communication. So mastering accounting and communication got you to however many billions you have right now. Imagine how much further I could have been had I told myself, like, hey, wake up, accounting and communications, master it now. Where could I have been? Where could you be if you take out some skills that you feel like are important to you or that could get you to the next level, and really lock in on mastering those as well as other understandings, man? So I really look back and wish I could have told myself, don't put so much value in being smart as much as you put the value in learning and really having that grit, that grind, that willingness to feel dumb in order to not be dumb. Because we all have been in a place where we're trying to learn something, to study something, and we're not catching on as fast as we thought we were, and we just feel not that smart. If you can grind through that and just learn everything, man, I wish I could give myself more of that when I was younger. And if you guys enjoyed that video, man, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and why don't you leave some of the things that you wish you can tell your younger selves in the comments. Peace.